students. So our next aim is to find out an expression for the diffraction in terms of the reciprocal lattice vectors. For that, first of all, we can see what the diffraction of crystal means. Usually, suppose we are using 5000 angstrom, that is optical wavelength, for the diffraction. So what happens is that superposition of waves scattered elastically results in optical refraction, and we are not getting any diffraction pattern in that case if we are using optical wavelengths. So if we are using wavelength which are lambda far less than a, that is then we will get the diffracted beams. Or if we are using wavelength of the order of X-rays, then we are getting information about the crystals. So in that case, you can see that from this figure, this D is the separation between two nearby planes, and theta is the angle of diffraction. Then if the path difference is 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda, then that corresponds to the condition for diffraction, and which confirms the periodicity of the lattice also. So for different n values, you will get different conditions. Suppose if it is 1 lambda, then 2D sin theta is equal to 1 lambda. For that particular value, you will obtain a theta. And for n equal to 2, you will get corresponding another value for the theta. So this confirms the periodicity of the lattice. So each plane undergoes a diffraction for different angles. So the theta will be different for corresponding to different values of n. Then before getting the expression for diffraction in terms of the reciprocal lattice vectors, first of all, we are finding what the Fourier analysis of a particular crystal is. We know a crystal is invariant under any translation of the form, that is T is equal to U1 A1 plus U2 A2 plus U3 A3, where U1, U2, U3 are integers and A1, A2, A3 are the crystal translation vectors. So the corresponding electron number density, charge concentration, magnetic moment density, etc. of the crystal will be invariant under this type of transformation. So suppose n of r represents the any of the property of the crystal, that is, suppose if you assume that it is the electron number density, then it will be periodic with a period of T, capital T. That is n of r plus t will be equal to n of r. It is periodic function of n of r, we can say that. Before considering the three-dimensional case, first of all we are considering the one-dimensional case. In that case, suppose we are taking it as n of x, then the period of with the period a, suppose we take, then along x-axis, suppose we expand this n of x, then it will be the Fourier series expansion of that will be n0 plus summation p greater than 0 cp cos 2 pi px by a plus sp sin 2 pi px by a. That is the Fourier series expansion of any periodic function, where 2 pi by a corresponds to the shows n of x has a period a. 2 pi by a is the period of the 2 pi by a comes in the Fourier series, shows that this has a period of a. So n of x plus a, suppose we take n of x plus a, then that will be equal to some n0 plus summation cp cos 2 pi px by a plus 2 pi p you will get, then plus sp sin 2 pi it will be sp sin 2 pi px by a plus 2 pi p. So if it has a period of a, so 2 pi p by a, we can assume that it is a point in the reciprocal lattice or Fourier space of the crystal. So already we have seen that the reciprocal lattice vectors are given by 2 pi by a, which are points in the reciprocal. So 2 pi p by a, we can assume that these are the points in the reciprocal lattice, and which says tells us that the allowed terms in the Fourier series 1 and 2, or 2 pi by p by a is a point in the reciprocal lattice, or Fourier space of the crystal, which tells us the allowed terms in the Fourier series. So all the terms are not allowed in the Fourier series transformation, Fourier series analysis, and the periodicity of the crystal demands certain types of p-values only are possible for this case. For that, this p can take integer values only. So these are points in the reciprocal lattice vectors. Suppose we take in one dimension the values are 2 pi. Suppose we take different values for p, then suppose p equal to 0, you will get 2 pi by p into 0 by a, that is 0. Then first value is 2 pi by a, then second value is 4 pi by a, and then in the negative case it will be minus 2 pi by a, etc. So in one dimension you can mark that that points on the figure. It is marked like this: 0, 2 pi by a, 4 pi by a, etc. Therefore, in general, any function which is associated with a crystal which has a periodicity can be expressed as summation n of r is equal to summation over p np exponential I 2 pi p 2 exponential I 2 pi px by a. Then these lines in one dimension, these points lie on a line, and the reciprocal lattice points tells us the allowed terms in the Fourier series of described by equations 1 and 2. A term is allowed if it is consistent with the periodicity of the crystal, and other points in the reciprocal space are not allowed in the Fourier expansion of a periodic function. But only the lattice reciprocal lattice points are allowed. All the other points in the reciprocal space are not allowed. Only the reciprocal lattice points are allowed in the Fourier series expansion of a periodic function. So that is the importance of the reciprocal lattice. Suppose we are converting the original crystal into the Fourier space, then the possible values which is consistent with the Fourier expansion with the crystal translation vector will be the reciprocal lattice points. So generally we can take the expression for n of r as summation over g ng exponential I g dot r, where g is invariant under all crystal translation. G is a term which is invariant under all crystal translation, and t crystal translation t that leaves the crystal invariant. It is invariant under crystal translation, and this ng determines the X-ray scattering amplitude, etc. Now, if you look into the equation number 2, n of x plus a, that is again n of x, it will be equal to n of x because cos of 2 pi px by a plus 2 pi b plus sin of 2 pi px by a plus 2 pi b is again cos of the first term, cos of 2 pi px by a and sin of 2 pi px by a. So the periodicity is included in the expression of this Fourier series. Now in this expression you can see n of x is equal to summation over p and p exponential I 2 pi px by a. This p can take any values, positive, negative or 0. Then the coefficients np are now, or all our complex numbers are also possible. Since it is a real function, we have to make in order to make it a real function, the condition required is that n star of minus p should be equal to np. That is a condition, and we can this enlarge that into the three-dimensional case. So that becomes n of r is equal to summation over g n g exponential I g dot r, where g is a term which is invariant under the crystal translation vector, or it is invariant under all crystal translation, and t that leaves the crystal invariant. So the conclusion which we can make from here is that there is some relation between the reciprocal lattice and the Fourier space. So direct image is related with the direct viewing or microscope image is related with the direct crystal. Fourier space is related with the reciprocal lattice vector, and we have the same periodicity as the crystal that exists also in the Fourier space, but the term is related with the 2 pi. So the periodicity is not in terms of a, it is of the terms of 2 pi by a. Then we have the reciprocal lattice vectors, which we have already discussed, the different b1, b2, b3, etc., which are related with the direct lattice vectors by the formula b1 equal to 2 pi a2 cross a3 divided by a1 dot a2 cross a3, etc. Then b1 dot aj will be equal to 2 pi delta ij. That is, suppose we take b1 dot a1, it will be 2 pi into delta I, that will be equal to 2 pi. If we take to b1 into a2, it will be equal to 0. That is, each reciprocal lattice vector is orthogonal to two axis vectors of the direct crystal lattice. Then this vector, in the Fourier series expansion, we have one G, and that G is defined by these points in the reciprocal lattice are mapped by the set of vectors. G is equal to v1 b1 plus v2 b2 plus v3 b3, and the crystal translation vectors, and this G is termed as a reciprocal lattice vector. v1 v2 v3 are the integers, and a vector G of this form is termed as a reciprocal lattice vector. G is termed as a reciprocal lattice vector. Direct lattice vector is this u1 a1 plus u2 a2 plus u3 a3. Then G will be the reciprocal lattice vector. Then suppose we take the n of r plus t, then we can see that it is n of r is summation g ng exponential I g dot r, then plus n of r plus t becomes exponential I into g. Instead of r, you can write it as r plus t. You can separate into two terms, exponential I g dot r into exponential I g dot t. So first of all, you have to write exponential g dot r plus t. You can split that into two. Then for g, you can substitute I into v1 b1 plus v2 b2 plus v3 b3. For g, then next one, for r, you can write it as the first term. You can remains it as such that is summation g ng exponential I g dot r. Then the second term is exponential I g dot t. So we can evaluate the second term first, exponential I g dot t. So you can substitute the values g for v1 b1 plus v2 b2 plus v3 b3. Then for t, you can substitute u1 a1 plus u2 a2 plus u3 a3. Then it will be equal to exponential I into, then v1 u1 is there, then b1 dot a1 first term, then b1 dot a2 is there, b1 dot a3 is there. So what remains? b1 dot a1, that remains as 2 pi. Then b1 dot a2 and b1 dot a3 becomes 0. Then from the second term, b2 b2 dot all the three terms. So only the terms which remains is b2 dot a2 becomes 2 pi. So 2 pi into v2 u2 plus next term becomes 2 pi into v3 u3. So from all these terms, you can take a 2 pi outside. So that becomes exponential I into 2 pi into v1 u1 plus v2 u2 plus v3 u3. Then what is exponential I g dot t becomes? It is exponential I into 2 pi times integers. 2 pi times integers becomes that is equal to 1. That is exponential I 2 pi something is equal to cos pi 2 pi some integer plus sin 2 pi some integer. Cos 2 pi some integer becomes 1, and I plus I sin 2 pi integers becomes 0. So exponential I g dot t becomes 1. So n of r plus t becomes summation over g ng exponential I g dot r itself, that is equal to n of r. So this n of r plus t is equal to n of r. So the terms which you have already mathematically introduced, it is consistent with the property of the crystal, that is, it is invariant under the crystal translation. So the newly defined quantity is the reciprocal lattice vector G is equal to v1 b1 plus v2 b2 plus v3 v3, that is consistent with the property of the crystal. So we can say that this diffraction pattern is a map of the reciprocal lattice of the crystal in the Fourier space, and or we can say that it is a lattice in the Fourier space. The diffraction pattern is a map of the reciprocal of the lattice of the crystal in the Fourier series, we can say. Then this reciprocal lattice vector introduced by G, V1 B1 plus V2 B2 plus V3 B3. This electron density has the desired invariance. N of R plus T is equal to summation over G Ng exponential I G dot R into exponential I G dot R T, which is also equal to N of R. Therefore, this N of the electron density has also the desired invariance under the crystal translation. So in the next part, that derivation is given, that is t is given, then exponential g dot t is evaluated and the value is found to be 1. So we can conclude that n of r plus t is equal to n of r. A diffraction pattern of a crystal is a map of the reciprocal lattice of the crystal, and a microscope image is a map of the crystal structure in real space. The reciprocal lattice is a lattice in the Fourier space associated with its crystal. So every crystal is associated with the two types of lattice. One is the direct lattice and the other one is the reciprocal lattice. What we are getting from the diffraction pattern is a pattern or an image of the reciprocal lattice that we can easily convert into direct lattice in order to obtain the real nature of the crystal. Wave vectors are always drawn in Fourier space, so that any position in Fourier space, any vector in Fourier space may have a meaning as a description of a wave, but there is a special significance to the points defined by the set of G's associated with a crystal structure. A diffraction pattern is a map of the reciprocal lattice of the crystal, and a microscope image is a map of the crystal structure in real space. Then reciprocal lattice is a lattice in the Fourier space associated with the crystal, and wave vectors are drawn in Fourier space. So wave vector, it is 2 pi by lambda, that is it is also some quantity which is related with the Fourier space, so that every position in Fourier space may have a meaning as a description of a wave. So every point in Fourier space can be described as a wave, but there is a special significance to the points defined by the set of G's associated with a crystal structure. But every points in Fourier space is associated as a description of wave, but there are special significance to the points described by the reciprocal lattice vectors or by the G's associated with the crystal structure that is related with the crystal, and every point in the Fourier space is associated with the description of a wave, but the points described by the G's has a special meaning in the as far as the crystal structure is concerned. Now next our aim is to write down a condition, diffraction condition in terms of these G vectors and K vectors. Instead of writing this usual lambda vector, or instead of writing this in the real space, we are changing that equation in the Fourier space. For that, you can consider a crystal specimen where dV is the volume and incident beam is characterized by e raised to I k dot r, and the outgoing wave is characterized by e raised to I k dash dot r. K and k dash are the wave vectors of the incident and refracted beam. Then here we have a small volume element is shown with respect to this origin. Some point is marked as the O. Then you can see the difference in path length of the incident wave k at the point O is r sin phi. So here one phi is marked. So the difference of the path length of the incident wave and incident wave vector and outgoing wave vector, you can see. And this incident wave and the difference in path length of the incident and wave k at the point O is r sin phi. So the difference in phase angle will be equal to 2 pi times 2 pi by lambda times the original path length. So suppose you examine the incident beam and outgoing beam with respect to the reference point O, the extra path traveled by the beam when it passes through the volume element is this r sin phi. So here you can see the angle phi, and here this is the vector that is the origin, and this volume element r. Then corresponding difference in phase angle you can convert that path length in terms of phase angle by multiplying it with 2 pi by lambda into r sin phi, that you can written as k dot r. Here this k dot r means k into r into angle between, so phi is equal to 90 minus the angle between k and r, so it will be equal to k dot r. So the path length of the incident beam at the point O, and suppose we find the difference between O and the volume element, that is the path difference r sin phi for the incident beam. Similarly, for the refracted wave also, the difference in phase angle. For the diffracted wave, the difference in phase angle, you can see that difference is also which is equal to here the wave vector is k dash, so that angle is phi, so it will be equal to k dash dot r. Then it is for the diffracted wave, the difference in phase angle will be equal to minus k dash dot r. So in the diffracted case, this angle, this k and k dash has a change in angle. So the total difference in phase angle is k minus k dash dot r. Total difference in phase angle will be equal to, first one is k dot r plus next one will be for the diffracted wave, so that is equal to minus k dash dot r. So the total difference in phase angle is k minus k dash dot r. So the wave scattered from dv at r has the same the phase factor exponential I k minus k dash dot r related to the wave scattered from a volume element at the origin. So that is a conclusion which we can make. So the wave scattered from dv at r at a distance r from the origin has a phase vector phase factor exponential I k minus k dash dot r related to the wave scattered from a volume element at the origin. That is the difference of phase angle between the wave reflected from the wave or wave and which has scattered from origin, and that is from the specimen specified volume V of the crystal. The difference in phase vectors between beams scattered from various elements are apart. Suppose we can generalize these. So if the point is r distance, but if the volume element is r distance apart from the common fixed origin, then the difference in phase angle will be exponential I k minus k dash dot r. Let the amplitude of the wave scattered from a volume element is proportional to the local electron concentration. The amplitude of the wave scattered from a particular volume, it will be always proportional to the local electron concentration nr. Therefore, total amplitude of the scattered wave in the direction of ks dash is proportional to the integral over the crystal of n of r dv times the phase factor. So the scattering amplitude will be equal to f will be equal to dv into n of r into exponential I k minus k dash dot r, or which will be equal to dv into n of r into exponential minus I into k minus k dash, you can write it as delta minus delta k, or k plus delta k is equal to k dash. K, you can see in the picture, k is given as vector, delta k is the difference vector, then k dash, k plus delta k is equal to k dash. So you from this k minus k dash will be equal to minus delta k dot r. So delta k is the scattering vector, we can call it as. Therefore, n of r from here, that is the scattering amplitude summation over g dv into ng exponential. So n of r നമ്മൾ ഓൾറെഡി എഴുതി വെച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ng exponential I g dot r എന്നുള്ള എക്സ്പ്രഷൻ സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ng exponential I into g minus delta k dot r എന്നായിട്ട് മാറും ഈ എക്സ്പ്രഷൻ. That is the scattering expression for scattering amplitude. That is scattering vector delta k is approximately equal to the reciprocal lattice vector. Scattering vector delta k is approximately when delta k is equal to g, that means scattering vector delta k is approximately equal to reciprocal lattice vector, we will get f is equal to some ng into the total volume element v into ng. That is, f is negligibly small when delta k difference significantly from any lattice reciprocal. The conclusion which we can make from this result is that f is negligibly small, that is the scattering amplitude will be very small when delta k differs significantly from any lattice reciprocal vector. If they both are equal, then the scattering amplitude will be maximum. If they vary significantly from each other, the scattering amplitude will be very less. So we can now k minus k dash is equal to delta k equal to g means k minus k dash minus k is equal to g, or k dash is equal to k plus g, or k plus g whole square will be equal to k square, or suppose you expand this 2k dot g plus k square plus g square, then you can cancel k square from two sides. The remaining expression becomes 2k dot g plus g square is equal to 0 is the diffraction condition, or 2k dot g is equal to g square is the diffraction condition in terms of reciprocal lattice vectors. Here, since g is a reciprocal lattice vector, minus g is also a reciprocal lattice vector. So this condition for diffraction in terms of reciprocal lattice vector is 2k dot g is equal to g square, or 2k dot g plus g square is equal to 0. Now if we consider the elastic scattering of a photon, then in that case h cross omega is conserved. So omega dash it will be equal to ck prime, omega will be equal to ck. So omega k and k dash will be equal, k square will be equal to k dash square. So delta k will be equal to 0. Delta k is equal to 0 will be the condition. And this is another statement of the Bragg's condition for diffraction. This is in terms of reciprocal lattice vectors. Now you can convert that equation into the usual Bragg's form, that is 2 into 2 pi by lambda into g sine theta. That is that will be equal to g square, because 2k dot g that is equal to between k and g, the angle is here we can mark it as so cos of the angle between that can be converted into sine of the angle between sine of the diffraction angle. So 2 into 2 pi by lambda into g sine theta, that is equal to g square. That is 2 into 2 pi by lambda into sine theta is equal to g, where g is equal to 2 pi by dhkl, that we have already seen. That is reciprocal lattice vectors are drawn at a distance of 1 by t. So cancelling the common factors, we get a 2d sine theta is equal to l lambda, where d is the spacing between adjacent parallel planes with the indices h by n, k by n and l by n. Then next we can see the what is this Levy equations are. We have the diffraction theory delta k is equal to g, and that can be represented in another way called Levy equation. For that, what we are doing is that suppose we take a1 dot delta k, so it will be equal to a1 dot g, that is equal to a1 dot v1 b1 plus v2 b2 plus v3 b3. So you know the relation between a1 dot b1, a1 dot b2, etc. So that will be equal to 2 pi v1 only. Similarly, a2 dot delta k will be equal to 2 pi v2, and a3 dot delta k is equal to 2 pi v3. This delta k lies on a certain cone about the direction of a1, a2 and a3. That is the Levy condition. Another statement of the diffraction condition, that is it must lie at the common line of intersection of 3. It must lie at the common line of intersection of 3. If we take the first equation, a1 dot delta k is equal to 2 pi v1 tells us that delta k lies in a certain cone about the direction of a1. Similarly, the second equation tells us that delta k lies on a cone about a2 as well, and the third equation says that delta k lies on a cone about a3. That is, thus at a reflection, delta k must satisfy all three equations, that it must lie at the common line of intersection of these three cones. Delta K should lie at the intersection of these three cones, which is a severe condition that can be satisfied only by systematic sweeping or searching in wavelength or crystal orientation. Or if that particular condition is satisfied, then only this diffraction can take place by a crystal. That is another statement of the diffraction condition. Now another construction is shown here, that is known as the Ewald construction, which helps us to visualize the nature of the diffraction that may occur in a particular condition is satisfied. For that we have drawn the incident wave vector k from a particular origin O. This is that common point, you can mark it as the origin. Then these dots are the reciprocal lattice vectors. Then we have drawn such that this k terminates on a particular reciprocal lattice point. Then you can draw a sphere of radius 2 pi by lambda or a radius 2 k from that common center, and that circle is completed. Suppose that circle, if it passes through any other lattice point, any other reciprocal lattice point, then that point you can mark it as mark, and from the origin you can draw the second k vector, that is k dash, such that then the relation between k and k dash will be equal to k plus g will be equal to k dash, or k dash will be equal to, as already we have mentioned, that is equal to delta g. Delta k is equal to g. The diffracted beam will be formed if this sphere intersects any other point in the reciprocal lattice. So for that particular, if the angle of incidence is in such a direction, that angle is marked here, it has 2 theta, then you can project this k back to the sphere side. You can see that in the textbook of Kittel, page number 37, you can mark the angle theta from the final point, that is from the end of k dash to the this k you can extend to point it in the back side of the sphere, then that angle will be theta. So if a particular wave vector is there that is incident at a particular angle theta, then that wave vector can produce a diffraction if this condition is satisfied. That is the construction made by the Ewald. The conclusion which we can make from all this description is that we have in Fourier space, suppose we are considering the diffraction pattern of the crystal, mathematically the study can be performed using the Fourier analysis, and this wave vectors satisfies the Bragg's condition in the ordinary space. That is the equation has a similar form in the reciprocal lattice vector, that is 2k dot g plus g square, where the g is the reciprocal lattice vectors, and this diffraction can take place only at a particular angle of incidence theta, and that can be easily constructed by the Ewald's construction. Then next we can go through the Brillouin zones. Brillouin zones are defined as the Wigner seeds a primitive cell in the reciprocal lattice. You know the method which we have used to construct the primitive cell using the Wigner seeds method. Similarly, we can construct these reciprocal lattice, primitive reciprocal lattice vectors, and that they are termed as the Brillouin zones. We have the equation 2k dot g is equal to g square for the condition for diffraction to occur. Dividing it throughout by 4, we will get k dot half g is equal to half g the whole square. In order to construct this Brillouin zone, select a vector g from the origin to the lattice vector. Draw a vector from any reciprocal lattice vector from the origin to a reciprocal lattice vector. Select a vector g. Then construct a plane normal to this vector g at its midpoint. Construct a plane normal to this at this vector at its midpoint. This plane forms the part of a zone boundary. In the case of Wigner seeds Wigner seeds construction, we have drawn vectors to nearby lattice point. Here we are drawing that vector with a particular length. we are drawing that length vector with a g, and its midpoint the length will be half g. Then any vector from the origin to this plane will satisfy the diffraction condition. K1 dot half gc will be equal to half gc square. Then you can draw another to the next reciprocal lattice vector. You can draw a g vector. Then all this forms the boundary of the Brillouin zones. These planes divide the Fourier space of the crystal into fragments, and the first Brillouin zone is the smallest volume entirely enclosed by planes that are perpendicular bisectors of the reciprocal lattice vector. Similarly, you can draw all the planes, and the smallest volume so these planes divide the Fourier space into of the crystal into fragments. First Brillouin zone is the smallest volume entirely enclosed by the planes that are perpendicular bisectors of the reciprocal lattice vectors. In one dimension, you can draw like this. We have this distance. These zone boundaries are obtained at minus pi by a and plus pi. The basis vector, if we consider the case of one dimension, the basis vector in the reciprocal lattice is b, and whose length is equal to 2 pi by a. In one dimension, the length is equal to 2 pi by a. Basis vector is b. Then the shortest reciprocal lattice vectors from the origin are b and minus b, and the perpendicular bisectors will be at pi by a and minus pi by a. So the boundaries of the first Brillouin zone is plus or minus pi by a. So this first Brillouin zone includes Brillouin zone includes only one lattice reciprocal lattice point. Then we have this boundary. The first volume enclosed by this will be the first Brillouin zone. Similarly, second boundary zone also we can find out by drawing in a similar manner. And these Brillouin zones have great importance in the theory of wave propagation in crystal. A wave whose wave vector drawn from the origin terminates on any of these planes will satisfy the condition for diffraction. If a wave whose wave vector drawn from the origin terminates on any of these planes, that will produce diffraction. That is the importance of this Brillouin zone in the case of wave propagation in crystals. The first Brillouin zone is the smallest volume entirely enclosed by planes that are the perpendicular bisectors of the reciprocal lattice vectors drawn from the origin. That is, first Brillouin zone is the smallest volume entirely enclosed by planes that are perpendicular bisectors of the reciprocal lattice vectors drawn from the origin. It is a smallest volume enclosed in the reciprocal lattice in the Fourier space. The Brillouin zone plays an essential part of the analysis of electronic energy band structure of crystals. There's not so much importance in the X-ray diffraction, but it has special importance in the case of electronic energy band structure of crystals, and it is related with the X-ray diffraction like this, that if it undergoes, if the wave propagation, if a wave vector satisfies this condition, a wave vector whose wave vector drawn from the origin terminates on any of these planes will surely satisfy the condition for diffraction. അതായത് നമുക്ക് ഒരു വേവ് നമ്മൾ വേവിൻ്റെ കറസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന വേവ് വെക്ടർ നമ്മൾ വരച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ഈ ഒരു Brillouin സോണിൻ്റെ ബൗണ്ടറിയിൽ മീറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണെങ്കിൽ ഷുവർലി ആ വേവ് ഡിഫ്രാക്ഷൻ അണ്ടർഗോ ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ചാൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. അതർവൈസ് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ നോട്ട് അണ്ടർഗോ എനി diffraction. Okay, that is about the Brillouin zones.